Hello, hello. Welcome to the Thoughtful Age podcast.
Hi,
Today's
thanks
topic,
for having me.
hello Ian. Today's topic is related to product management entitled Fueling the Future, Striking the Balance Between Customer Wants and Needs. And my guest is Ian Johnson, CEO of Kinesso. And about 4 years ago, I embarked on a new adventure by joining Kinesso. And I did know nothing about what I will have to do there, what people I will meet. But fortunately, uh, that led me to cross the path with Ian, a remarkable individual who would leave a lasting impression on myself. And at that time, Ian had a senior leadership position, and I always looked up at him as an example of an engineer with a successful career. And it's worth noting that both of us are coming from engineering. Ian had a degree in engineering and computer science, and his career started uh, as someone who worked in the telecom and building the networks and designing networks and working in that direction. However, at some point, Ian realized that he wants to start his own company and become a CEO himself, and he started a venture in the ed tech. And according to him, since that point, he became addicted to startups. And as engineering career progress, like we often realize that there is much more to learn beyond just the engineering craft or the coding craft. For example, the product management or product development. And I believe Ian can tell us a lot about that side of tech business and that side of career path. So today's topics is directly related to product management and managing user experience while balancing immediate customer desires with long-term goals. But before we dive in, Ian, can you please introduce yourself and tell our audience what made you switch focus from engineering to product management, and what is your main focus right now?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the kind introduction. Yeah, I think when I started my career in engineering, it was a simple goal. I wanted to be a chief technology officer, and typically in engineering, you go in one field, you kind of stay there. So for whatever reason, I was brave enough to kind of move around, which actually I needed to become a CTO. And then having become a CTO, I was actually CTO for Vodafone in Portugal for a while. And it's okay, well, I've got to that. What next? Do I just want to be CTO of a bigger network, bigger company, bigger whatever? And I came to the conclusion that, well, no, I wanted to run businesses. And so it's okay, well, you need to be exposed to commercials, you need to understand sales, you need to do this. Basically I started, okay, well, let's start in business strategy. So I kind of moved out of technology. I moved back in a few spots along the way. But product is an amazingly rewarding kind of area because you touch everything. You actually have something tangible at the end of the day that you build. And it's very rewarding when you get it right. It's horrible when you get it wrong, but it's a very rewarding job. So I enjoyed my time in product management.
Yeah, that's really inspiring, and the story you have is really interesting. And when it comes to the product management and the today's topic, what are some significant challenges companies face when trying to satisfy customer desires while also addressing long-term requirements? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, my experience, right? So just to kind of qualify that way, customers want everything now, right? And they typically aren't thinking too far in advance. So the kind of longer term challenges you have are easy ones and hard ones. And the easy one is typically scaling, right? When you've got a startup and you've got your a few million from VCs, you've got one client giving you a few $100,000, so you're still not cash flow positive. The solution that you can afford then is very different to the solution when you've got tens of millions of dollars coming in and you're trying to look after hundreds, if not thousands of kind of customers. So the good news is those longer term needs, how do I make my platform scale, typically comes with more resource. You've got more money coming in, so you can kind of afford to set up separate teams to kind of work on how to do the kind of upgrade. There are other changes that are equally compelling. You have to do them. There's regulatory change, or one of your key partners is changing an API, and they're giving you 12 months to do it, or whatever. So if you don't do it, you're out of business. So it kind of makes it easier to kind of free up resource. The hardest is when you start a company, or when you build a new kind of product, you believe something, right? And it's like you believe that there's a headache out there that there isn't a good cure for. And so you kind of set around to kind of build that thing. And when you go to a client and get your first win, you're very excited. But typically they want it to be, if it's like an ad server. My first startup was a video ad server for the mobile channel. And the number of clients said, well, I want it to be just like DoubleClick, only twice as fast and half the price. And it's like, okay, but actually the mobile channel is problematic compared to having a wired connection to your home. Okay, these are all the things that you need to change in ad server to kind of make that work. And so, making sure we're having sufficient cycle time to deliver against the vision of the company, against what the client wanted, just make it like a DoubleClick. That was that's always a challenge, and that's the thing where you have to keep re-examining your kind of North Star of where you want to get to, but you do need to maintain a degree of customer satisfaction. Otherwise, you won't have that customer, let alone new customers, for too long.
Yeah, those challenges, they're usually quite significant, and it's a good point that you always need to keep in mind the North Star and North Star metric as well. Like one of the guests, we already discussed that thing. And I also remember myself being in the same situation. Like I was hired to lead a team that was dedicated to building some set of dashboards to monitor the infrastructure state and the health of the hardware and everything. And we would just focus on building feature after feature, and the customer was just requesting and keep requesting them. But we didn't have the whole picture in mind and the ultimate goal we want to achieve, and that definitely led us to some problems. After a year of the development, we realized, like some of the strategic goals we didn't address and didn't consider before, and then now it requires a significant investment to get to the same point, which will drive us forward and will allow us to scale much better, and will allow our company to be more successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's dive deeper into how companies can differentiate between immediate customer demands and their future necessities. What strategies or methodologies have you seen that have proved their success and effectiveness?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing is, Agile is a very flexible development methodology, but you need to be agile in your mindset, kind of flexible how you do things, right? If your first customer is not happy, you're not going to have the reference that enables the VCs to kind of give you more funding. And suddenly it'll be hard to win your second client when your first client kind of walked out the door. So maybe then you do put all of your resource to make sure that client is landed and happy. But generally, you do need to make sure you're up with tech debt. You do need to make sure you're delivering against your kind of strategic imperatives, which does mean reserving a part of your resource against that kind of part of the roadmap. I think every product manager has a different version of a 2x2 matrix that they kind of love and adore, and kind of influences their decision-making process. But my 2x2 matrix has complexity on the bottom axis, easy to implement or hard to implement, and on the y-axis it's not differentiated, i.e. me too, and the other bit is differentiated, right? And the thing that makes you have a winning company and a winning product is that top right hand corner, right? It's hard to do, and it's truly differentiated. And product managers tend to prefer the top left hand corner, easy to do and differentiated. The problem with that quadrant is if it's easy for you to do, it's easy for everybody else to do. So sooner or later, your competitors see it and everyone's doing the same thing. So it's great to have an ideas factory where you can just try stuff in that kind of top left-hand corner. But the thing that sometimes gets ignored is the second half, the Me Too stuff. And, when you're selling your product, you gloss over, of course we have an ad server, of course it does everything that DoubleClick does, but it does this extra differentiated stuff. And when it's coming to, the first thing that they want is bulk upload, they want reporting, they want a bunch of standard stuff that isn't truly a differentiator, but you just need it to be done. So those are the things that the clients, your first clients kind of really, your first customers really help you with. Okay, what is the hygiene? What's good enough? Is Tableau sufficient for the visualization, or do you need to kind of do custom data viz? So, those are the kind of things that, your first customers help you with, but they don't really help you with, okay, how am I differentiated? Where am I really going? What is going to make this an award-winning, highly successful venture? It's that top right-hand corner. So you just need to make sure you got enough cycle time on those longer term where we need to kind of get to.
Yeah, that's significant and sounds pretty efficient. You having this metrics in hand, you can definitely say it once. What is that opportunity that you would like to pursue? And on the other hand, having an agile methodology in place, you can quickly verify that theory, some of the ideas and some of the hypotheses, and how the customers will look at that and how they will use it. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So, with that in mind, I'd like to hear some of the examples from your experience where a company was able to successfully maintaining this balance between those competing interests. Can
Yeah.
you share anything?
Yeah, I can. And I think the secret is a balance, right? And as I say, that kind of balance can kind of shift depending on your pre-customer. Okay, put everything into the hard stuff that's going to win you business as soon as you get that first customer kind of do the hygiene. But I think the recent stuff that we've been doing in Kinesso, working with Matterkind, is a good example, because if you talk to the campaign managers about what they want is, okay, how do you make my life easier, right? How can you take the drudgery out of campaign management? So it's all about automation, reducing touch points. We had a solution which was associated with insertion orders, and it was forever, make it simpler, make it faster, make it lower touch. But when you have the conversation with the end client, it's like, oh, great, you've made it more efficient. Okay, how much cost are you going to reduce to kind of do that? So it's very hard to kind of grow a business if your sole focus is, saving, 10% here, 5% there. So, from a product point of view, it's okay, what's going to grow our business? And the thing that we kind of decided to focus on was more about the kind of the optimization, that kind of cross-channel, omni-channel optimization problem, because you're delivering better outcomes for your end customers, your clients, than the other solutions on the market. If you're optimizing, it means you've got good, clean data, which means that you're making smarter decisions. So that it's a typical problem that you find in the kind of the media space. And that focus on that top line optimization, better outcome, led to significant growth in the business. When I joined, I won't go into the too much of the specifics, but we were tens of millions in billings, and currently it's in the billions of dollars in billings. So that's sizable growth is because, okay, how do we grow the business? And it's really about that, delivering better outcomes than a continual focus on kind of reducing cost.
That's fascinating story. And could you please tell us what you personally felt when realized that the decision you made was right and ultimately led to the success?
So I mean, obviously there's probably a whole list of terrible decisions we made along the way, but that's what I was saying about product management. It is so rewarding, right? to have something tangible at the end of the day, and to be able to grow a business on the back of the solution that you kind of recommended. And I think we had like 20 engineers when I joined, and it's hundreds now, 400 or 500 that we have now. So to see that level of growth based on a solution set that you helped kind of define a North Star and have the company energized behind it is very rewarding.
Yeah, I can imagine it is fulfilling and satisfy you to a very high extent. And yeah, glad that you did that. And those like growth was very huge. It was significant for sure, like from 20 engineers, as you mentioned, to like hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. So let's discuss how business can prioritize and allocate resources to address both short-term demands and long-term necessities. Is there any approach for the resource allocation?
Yeah, I think, certainly on the engineering side, I hate to say it's relatively straightforward, but it comes down to level of effort, right? Which you kind of quantify with story points. And, to me at least, one of the successes of a product organization is that predictability, right? If you say we can have this done by September, and it's then 6 months after that date it finally arrives, the business doesn't believe you anymore, right? So salespeople are hedging, customers are getting frustrated, these things. So that level of effort estimation, what's it going to take to help me deliver, and building the process so that you've got that level of predictability, I think is kind of key to success. So, quantifying how much it's going to take to get the thing done, I think organizations typically are engineered to do. The thing that's harder is what's the reward, and that's the bit that makes, in my view, prioritization hard, right? Because if you're a sales guy, you want to close as many sales as you can, and if the customer says I want it blue versus red, they're going to offer it for blue, right? So, but in the overall scheme of things, was that really where you should have been kind of putting your engineering effort? And so that other things like scaling or delivering against your strategic imperatives, they're really about unlocking future potential, right? And the problem is, if you did a strict kind of business plan, the long-term stuff always wins, right? Because I can grow my business by tenfold. Whether you can or not, it's just a business assumption that you kind of build in. Okay, well, tenfold really kind of makes it worthwhile. So my view is you have to have kind of a softer approach to business value that it's unlocking than a hard business plan. But on the flip side, you should have a strong conversation of why you're doing it. Okay, this is about scaling. Okay, this is heading off a regulatory change. My business is too dependent on one partner, and they're going to put their prices up if I don't kind of diversify the base. Or this is my first customer. Assuming it's a kind of business to business kind of enterprise. The first business was a small or medium business because they make decisions faster. But the real prize is large businesses, and they need these 20 other things. So you're kind of trading off long-term growth against that near-term need. So to me, that's why the prioritization conversation is so hard. Sales guy, I need it now. I can get you a sale now. Versus, okay, I'm going to open up my market opportunity tenfold if I kind of do these things. And it's that kind of tension that it's always hard. But in your in my view, the process is you start with your product vision. What am I trying to do? How am I trying to get there? Right, from that vision, it's okay, what can I do this year? So and then kind of break back into it. And you just need to make sure you've got enough cycles against those longer term growth things to help you move along in the direction. That's not to say that, as you do the quarterly review, okay, crap, we just don't have happy customers. We need to focus more on some of the hygiene factors. But that's generally the approach. Articulate, this is for growth. This is helping me align with my strategic vision. This is going to grow my opportunity tenfold versus this is going to help me land the sales pipeline. And then have the conversation kind of going through. And there's always kind of horse trading as you kind of go through that process. And the more open that process is internally in an organization, in my view, the better. The bigger you get, it's harder because everyone wants to be a stakeholder. Everybody wants to have a voice at the table. So you have to be quite disciplined how large you make the room. But you do need to be quite inclusive in that conversation. Otherwise, you have the product team going off wanting to deliver this, the sales team selling something else, the account folk having problems. Well, if we just fix this one issue, 90% of the inbound calls to customer service would disappear. So it's always a bit of a horse trade, but the wider the conversation, the better. Don't get too precise because you'll just the assumptions are never perfect. But have the conversation and make sure people understand why you're doing it, and make sure you're listening to their objections to it.
Yeah, I like the idea of like balance and balancing that in the proper, to the proper extent, like not go to the edge one or another, but like still maintain something that would lead us to ultimate success. And also speaking of balance, and how important do you think is the culture and fostering the culture of innovation and adaptability and achieving this right balance between customer needs and long-term requirements?
Yeah, I mean, I think culture. You're right to break it. Culture, and then one of the components of culture is innovation and adaptability. It's very easy when you do a culture. The culture inside a startup is whatever it takes, right? So whatever it takes to get it over the line, to make the customer happy, or this, that, and the other. And this may be more of a factor of my startups versus anybody else's, but maybe the documentation isn't quite there. Maybe you're burning out your star players to they just can't sustain the kind of level of work. So as you mature, it's about getting more control, more process, making sure the load is shared outside the hands or heads of your smartest, best people. And that can take a culture shift. So, people who join the startup, as you grow and get more processes, maybe they're not quite the fit. So that can be tough for an organization. But again, having that open dialogue about what is the culture we want, how do we need to adapt the culture so that we can thrive as we grow, I think is key. And, the good news is with Agile, it really is about iteration, right? It is like try new stuff, fail fast. Did it work? Did it not? Okay, learn the lesson and kind of move on. So I think, it's that fail fast, get stuff out there is important. And I think it is part of Agile. However, it does have a little bit of an Achilles heel, and that Achilles heel is it's not very good with disconnects, right? If AI machine learning is going to completely disrupt your rules-based engine, okay, you need to have a separate team worrying about AI and ML, and is your data granular enough to let machines do the optimization? So I think, as you scale and your business gets bigger, ideally you do want a separate R&D team whose sole job it is to look at the disruptors. What are the new ideas we want to try? And if you're really lucky, a corp dev, okay, who's playing in the startup space? Should we be making investments so we can get closer to this particular pool of talent? But those are the things that kind of come with scale. When you start off as a startup, it's all hands to the pump to deliver against the vision. But as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, if you're not careful, you get into the trap of just making a better mousetrap than a different mousetrap, or getting disrupted by somebody else's different mousetrap. So yeah, it's very important. But as you grow, how you go about it will change.
Yeah, the culture is really significant, and I would also add the engagement of people, and in agile, it's like getting the feedback from the customers is very important for the people who actually do the work, and the engineers, the developers. If they will see the impact of whatever they do, and they will see happy customers at the end of the day, it is really empowering. Like for me personally, for sure, and they've seen that plays well with the different other people as well. And when we are talking about bigger organization, and we are talking about different departments or different teams that are inside the same organization, uh, how we can ensure that the collaboration between them are going well, and all of them are on the same page, and like moving in the same direction, and prioritize the same initiatives and things that we think is relevant and important.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned earlier. I mean, it's so easy to get it wrong, right? You know, as I say, if you haven't got internal alignment about what you're trying to achieve, how you're trying to achieve it, what's important, what's not important, as I say, you know, you can have the sales guy going off just, you know, sign here to the customer. We can do anything that you want, you know, completely. Everything's a snowflake, and then just lob it over to the fence, the product and engineering folk. Okay, go fix that. So, you know, obviously that's bad. You
Yeah.
know, on the account management side, you know, it may be completely obvious to them the three things that the client always complains about. But if the product and engineering org is too remote from that feedback, you know, they're too busy working on their roadmap that they locked in, you know, 3 months, 6 months ago. So, you know, getting everybody aligned is key. You know, actually, you know, particularly when you deal with large customers, you know, your customer isn't actually aligned either, right? You know, as the you know, head of the analytics shop, you know, the media buyer, you know, everybody can be kind of fragmented in their belief set as well. So again, it's getting, in my view, get alignment around the vision. This is what we're trying to do, all right? Okay, is this ask from this particular client helping me get to where I need to get to, or is it a distraction? And you know, because you have to pay the bills, you have to pay the wage bill. Sometimes you take on some of those distractions because it's what the customer wants, and at the end of the day, they're paying the bills. On the flip side, you do need to be taking care of your growth and future direction. It's just sales. Okay, great. Sorry, we can't do everything that you're asking for these customers because we're looking to grow the business 10x. You know, so you know, making sure you're having that conversation, making sure you're having the dialogue across the business, and you know, unfortunately, not everybody can have a voice at the table because you know, you just have endless meetings that kind of go on forever. But you do need to find those key stakeholders who really has their finger on the pulse of kind of what's going on, and you know, is happy with the kind of the prioritization process, and make sure that you escalate, right? If the problem stays in product and engineering and the business side of the house isn't involved, well, you know, this grow 10x may be immaterial if you can't pay the wage bill and everybody walks out the door because you know, you can't pay them. So yeah, I think it's the collaboration is key. Everyone aligned around a key vision, getting the culture working, I think is key, and then that open dialogue I think is important, with the proviso that not everybody can have a seat at the table for the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Collaboration is the essence, and having the right vision, and for everyone to share that vision is even more important, for everyone to make the most efficient decision based on that vision in their like local area, in their area of responsibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really vital, and I like that idea. Always for collaboration, always for getting as more feedback and opinion as possible.
Yeah.
And as we continue our discussion, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on the future, on how the relationship between customer desires and long-term requirements might evolve. Maybe there are something ahead of us, maybe some new technology or some new methodology. Maybe AI will play some role in there. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, and I think you know, obviously, well, not necessarily. Obviously, the depending on the customer, you know, business to consumer is different to business, and you know, a lot of kind of what I've done is kind of more on the business to business side. And the customers typically have questions about the future versus, okay, this then means I want the following. And the thing is, how do you keep them engaged in terms of how you see the industry going? How do you get their feedback on how it's evolving? You know, as we, you know, as you go through the third-party cookie deprecation and, you know, privacy regulation kind of flexes across the industry, the number of questions that we got and you know, how we ended up dealing with it was basically have, you know, 101 class, we then had master classes to kind of really help educate our base of customers about how we were thinking about it and how we're trying to evolve things. Again, with size comes the opportunity to put in structure. So, you know, having a client success team that is really, you know, dedicated to your larger customers and really understanding who are the thought leaders on their side of the fence, so you can kind of really benefit from how they're seeing their business evolve and kind of where they're going to, and have that honest feedback about, well, you know, this is how we're going to see the world without the cookie. This is what we think it means. This is how we're doing it. And, you know, the best partners will challenge you. They will offer you perspectives that you haven't kind of thought of. So that is the, you know, that customer advisory board with the key partners, with the best thinkers from your key customers, is the way to kind of surface a kind of a lot of those kind of directional, am I right or wrong? The flip side for the small companies, you know, as you're doing your startup, you've got to be careful of those sacred cows, right? You got funding on a belief, and, you know, halfway through it's like, holy crap, they really don't worry about it, or really they're not going to pay a premium for this particular solution. So that always kind of question those kind of sacred cows, you know, okay, I need a new North Star. How do I kind of pivot? And again, that acid test of signing up new customers is the acid test. You got it right or you got it wrong. So, you know, I think it's, as I say, depending on where you are in your life cycle, there are different things. But as you scale, customer advisory boards, you know, strong client success team, I think is key. Smaller, it's just make sure you're tapping in with the sacred cows, and are you winning new business or not, right? You know, are you on your plan or not?
Okay, yeah, that's insightful, and there is a lot of wisdom in all of this. And we're approaching the end of our today's interview, and I have the last question for you, Ian.
Okay.
Is there anything you can recommend for the aspiring leaders, or maybe product managers or engineers who want to progress in their career and maybe become a CEO, or maybe start their own company at the end of the day? Any like piece of advice that you might think might be essential?
Yeah, I think. Well, let me. The rules that I follow by. So I read everything, you know. So try not to pre-filter out. And, you know, if people recommend something to you, I mean, I struggle with some of the Harvard Business Reviews. You know, they're meaty, and a lot of the benefit is kind of halfway through. But, you know, read everything. Don't try to pre-filter. The second advice is be brave, right? You know, as I went through my career, you know, I started, as you said at the start, I started in telephony. I moved into mobile. I became a radio specialist. It's just, if I wanted to be CTO, I couldn't just know about mobile propagation and how it works. You know, there was a whole raft of things. So that forced me to kind of change job a number of times, not for more money, not for more people reporting to me or whatever, just learning new skills so I could be considered for bigger and bigger roles. And it then got to a point where I was, you know, a C-level exec on the engineering side, and I had to take a sideways move into kind of more commercial if I ever had a hope of becoming a CEO or COO. And it's hard, right? You know, you kind of move sideways. You got all your peer group. Suddenly you're not a peer with them anymore. You're potentially kind of more junior. But it's that kind of bravery that you kind of need, and you're going to get it wrong sometimes. So, be kind to yourself, forgive yourself, but try new stuff, expand your horizons. And, a technique that I use even to this day is, where do I want to be 5 years from now? Okay, do I have the skills to get there, or am I missing something? And so that kind of regular, annual check where I am. It can be depressing. I used to do it on my birthdays, and I used to get really depressed on my birthdays because it wasn't where I was thinking I wanted to be. And some birthdays when I did the review, it was like, holy crap, why did I want to do that? That was the stupidest thing I've ever done. So, but putting that structure in kind of really helped me. There was Lewis Carroll. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Well, I want to know where I'm going, and then okay, great. Well, these are things that are holding me back. Okay, how do I get those skills? So just be brave with your career, and hopefully it'll pay dividends for you. It certainly did for me.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, having this long-term plan and conducting the retrospective is, I believe, is very important and will definitely lead to success. And so, thank you so much, Ian, for joining us today. It was very insightful and interesting conversation. And for everyone who watched the podcast, please press like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, Ian.
I appreciate it. You take care. Thank you.